right, so I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. Let me make sure I've got my agenda up. All right, can everybody see the agenda? Okay. So as far as a roll call here, Bobby Glasser has an excused absence. He had to be out of town for work today. He got a new job. Joe Bauer is also an excused absence. Gail Walter, Dr. Walter is an excused absence. And Dr. Melowish is also an excused absence. So we've got 4 out of the meeting today. Nicole got a hold of me, Alwyn, and she should be along hopefully pretty soon. I think she was finishing something up at home. And I've not heard yet from Rob Lekas. Hopefully Rob will be joining here. So we've only got 5 right now, which is not enough for a quorum. I don't know that we had anything that we were going to take a vote on tonight, so we can kind of move ahead with the meeting. We hopefully will have a handful of things coming up that'll make the meetings a little bit more interesting in the next few months. So we are live streaming. We just heard that chime in. Did everybody get a chance to take a look at the agenda? I apologize again for sending it out kind of at the last minute. Are there any additions or questions to the agenda? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve the agenda?
I motion.
Can we officially do that without a quorum?
That's a good question. Yeah, I suppose if we're taking votes and we don't have enough, if we don't have a majority of current members here, we can't. So we might have to backtrack at some point to do approvals, but we can move on to the discussion at hand here. So approval of July meeting minutes, we'll come back to that. Any announcements? Thanks for saying that, Sharon. Any announcements?
Sorry, could Sharon's comment be repeated? I just got sound back.
Yeah, I just asked if we had a motion to approve the agenda. We don't have a quorum. So I don't really think we can take a vote on anything until we get Nicole or Rob here to join the meeting. So we'll kind of skip past those. Oh,
I'm here.
Nicole is here now. All right. Hey, Lori, how you doing? Okay, so let's back the train up, do it again. Is there a motion? So Wayne had already made a motion to approve the agenda. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor, give me a thumbs up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we lost video on Wayne. Wayne, where'd you go? We got a yes from you, Wayne?
I suppose he could abstain and it would still be a motion passed.
I hope Wayne is not just like on Fortnite. I'm going to be very, very disappointed. There we go. Hey, Wayne, can you give me a thumbs up for the agenda? Thanks. And then approval of July meeting minutes. I didn't have any other corrections to the July meeting minutes, so we do have a final draft, and I did upload those to the shared drive. So is there a motion to approve the July meeting minutes?
So motioned.
Second.
All right, all in favor? Give me a thumbs up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right, that's 6. Thanks very much. All right. Any announcements? Slow news month. We don't have a ton on the agenda this month. I'm hoping that we're going to have some more stuff coming up here in the next few months. Moving on to comments. Are there any phone calls, comments by citizens, non-agenda, agenda items, whatever?
Yes, there are 5 comments.
Holy moly. Okay, let's hear them.
Can I share my screen for a second?
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Hello, my name's Catherine Sugas. I have been a resident of Kalamazoo for most of my life. I'm now living further north. I have family that lives right in town in the area in question in the Winchell neighborhood, and I spend a lot of time there visiting. And I want to say that the presence of the animals and the deer at Kalamazoo and the beautiful landscapes that we have, the wildlands, make Kalamazoo a phenomenal city. And without that, it is just a regular, everyday city, not as much of a, I think that the way we've been conducted ourselves in Kalamazoo with the public lands and Asylum Lake Preserve and Kleinstad Preserve and the beautiful animals raise our consciousness so much. I know everybody I know in Kalamazoo, which all of my friends live in Kalamazoo. I'm a leader, minister, and I would want you to know that I hear this reflected in so many people. Everyone wants the deer. It raises up our spirits. It makes us happy, and we are really appalled that people are wanting to destroy the land that they live on, their habitat, like the Kleinstad Preserve. We need to keep our Paris Accord going. We said that we were going to be a pro-climate change city, and by taking down all our lands, we need to have better zoning. We need to do some changes in our city. And I just thank you for this opportunity. I want the deer to be respected, and people need to go to Plan B. People need to plant things that the deer can have, share their land with the deer, which is what everybody I know does. I don't know who these people are that don't like animals, but I think they're a minority. And please do everything you can not to hurt the deer, and please keep our public land. Western has no right to sell the land that was given to them in trust for the people of Kalamazoo, like the Colony Farm Orchard. That was done underhandedly.
Hi, my name is Cheryl Barea, B-A-R-E-A, and I am a resident of the city of Kalamazoo. I'm calling about the ongoing agenda item for a potential deer cull in the city of Kalamazoo. Again, wanted to voice my opposition to this. I don't believe that this is an effective solution. I don't believe in killing anything, much less deer. I think this is a real issue. I'm concerned about the biasness that the survey was done, and if you want to get an unbiased, independent survey, you should send one out by an independent third party who can distribute the poll as well as gather all of the evidence and the findings, because I don't believe that the information gathered is going to be unbiased. And I am totally opposed to this. I'm very concerned. I moved to the city of Kalamazoo for the wildlife. I enjoy the deer. I think there are a lot of ways that we can work collaboratively and cohesively and in harmony with deer as well as other wildlife. I'm very concerned that this is even an issue on the agenda. I think that there are just a couple outliers that want this to happen. I do not think that the citizens and the city of Kalamazoo support this. Again, my name is Cheryl, and I strongly oppose any conversation about a deer cull, which is basically murdering these innocent animals. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Eponine Garrett. I'm a member of the City of Kalamazoo, specifically the Oakwood neighborhood, and I'm just calling again to reaffirm my opposition to a potential deer cull. We understand that there is no cull proposal on the table currently. However, city resources were used to distribute a survey with many questions surrounding cull and to kill techniques. I don't have a copy of that survey, but I definitely remember multiple questions about supporting a cull and the different ways that a cull could be executed in Kalamazoo. Simply exercising our rights to voice an opinion in response to this city-issued survey is the goal of these calls. And basically what I'm looking for, and I know several of my fellow animal supporters are looking for, is a commitment from the ECC that a cull will not be proposed. It's never been proven to be effective and other options are available. If the ECC does decide to move forward for a recommendation with a deer management plan, we would love to be involved to ensure ethical treatments of animals is a commitment. We are not accusing ECC members of pushing a cull, but we do have rightful concern, again, after city resources were used to open up the possibility of a deer cull. I agree with the points that were brought up last month about potential conflicts of interest with the folks involved in the survey and who are supposedly compiling results, even though it's been a couple months now. And I do request that if the survey is still being actively pursued, that the raw data be released. I think we have a right to look at that, to sort through it, and not just accept a culminated report at face value. Just want to reiterate, in addition, this is not a blast at the ECC. Us animal activists are approaching this concern at many levels to just shut down the possibility of a cull, and I ask that ECC members remain respectful of our concerns. Some of the actions and remarks last month didn't necessarily seem to be understanding of our concerns. So hopefully this clears a few things up for you. You understand more where we're coming from. I want to thank you for your continued work, and I look forward to further discussion. Thanks.
Hello, good afternoon. I am calling for the Environmental Concerns Committee meeting tonight. My name is Iris Potter, and I live at 1204 Manor Street. I'm calling in for the formal record regarding a non-agenda item this time, the deer issue and survey. I have phoned in prior, and I will continue to voice my strong opposition to a deer cull option in a new deer management plan. Deer culls don't reduce the number of deer, and it seems clear that only a few residents of very few neighborhoods are in favor of it. It is 2021, and there has been plenty of information out there for years about mitigation methods for yard and garden preservation. Most importantly, I think we should view this issue in a holistic way and see that we shouldn't blame the deer for being here and want to kill them with sharpshooters in parks. They have been here and will always be around us. Myself and others believe that this is not a citywide issue and that your time and our time should not be spent having to deal with it. Time and money should be spent on our residents' real needs. We believe that the ECC will agree with us and that we have real environmental issues in Kazoo, but this isn't one of them. Also, when the deer survey results are finally presented to you, I sincerely hope that the raw data numbers are shown, not just a report summary received. Let us practice compassionate conservation and learn to live with, love, and appreciate our beautiful wildlife, which includes the amazing deer. Most of us do just that. I want to note also that I've sent Chair Wright 2 helpful resources about deer and how best to live amongst them so that he can forward them to you. You will find them detailed and helpful, I think. So thank you for your time and your service. Have a good evening. Bye-bye.
Yeah, my name is Tom Duffield, and I live in the township. But I have plenty of friends that live in the city. But I'm just calling to oppose the deer call. It just makes no sense to me to try to reduce the population the way you have consider doing it. So please just stop the idea of this deer call and just bring some sensibility back to this issue. Okay, I thank you very much. Bye-bye.
And that is all the public comments.
All right. Thanks so much for everybody for calling in and giving your input and opinions. We appreciate your time and effort. And the deer survey is not on the agenda for this month because there was not. We're awaiting results of that deer survey and a report from the ad hoc committee. Hopefully in the next month or so. I did speak with Pete Kushner, who is the president of the Oakwood Winchell Neighborhood Association, and he's personally putting together the this report and recommendations for a deer management plan. So ideally, we'd be able to read through that report hopefully next month or so. And then I believe that Pete is planning on coming to whenever we get the report, he would come to the following ECC meeting to discuss it with everybody. So seeing that we don't really have any news on it this month, I did not put it on the agenda. But I want to let everybody know that's calling in with opinions. We definitely are listening to you and hearing you, and we'll keep your thoughts in mind as we go forward with that conversation. Let me go ahead and share my screen again. All right, unfinished business updates and discussion. We still have not seen a draft of the Sustainability and Climate Action Plan update. City staff is still putting that draft together before they would send it to us to kind of review and discuss. But we do have with us here today Chad Oberdorster. Chad has recently moved here from Iowa, I think. Chad, you there? Chad is kind of leading the charge with reviewing our greenhouse gas emissions. I assume that means that you are using the ICLEI tool, inputting data, and summarizing and sort of analyzing that data. So tell us how that's going, Chad.
Thanks, Aaron. Yeah, I'm happy to be back in the state of Michigan after a couple decade absence. Happy to be back and engaging as a native citizen. It's going well. It's all the requests for data are sent out. We're hoping consumers has been really receptive. I'm kind of collaborating with the city of Lansing as well, and they're helping to gather the data for both of us, and we'll get that put in. It's just a matter of getting all the data collected, and then we'll clean it up, and we're inputting it into ICLEI. We'll put it in a nice clean report, and we're going to establish a 2019 baseline. And from there, we can set some hopefully pretty aggressive goals as we know this is the time to act.
Did you say a 2019 baseline?
Yeah, because the whole idea is that 2020, having been everybody kind of during the pandemic, we would have had a lesser baseline than a regular year, and so 2019 is the last full, quote unquote, regular year that we would have in terms of greenhouse gas emissions. We would expect to see less emissions last year, so it wouldn't be a really good year to have a real true baseline from.
And are you employed by the city?
No, I'm doing this just pro bono. I am completing a master's in December from Virginia Tech, and have gained a lot of skills and want to give back to the community. I want to, this is something that I have the time to do right now. And I'm hoping to help out and just engage the community in whatever needs to be done now that I'm back here in the state.
So this is a project that you're doing for your master's program?
Yeah, and for myself as well, just to gain those skills, to gain a better understanding of how are we going to account for these greenhouse gases. And it's, like I said, it's a way to re-engage with the community. Just very excited to be able to lend a helping hand.
All right, well, thanks for joining us today, Chad. Does anybody have any questions for Chad? Ian?
Yeah, hi Chad. Glad to hear you made it safely to Kalamazoo. I think last we spoke was maybe July. Thanks for joining us. Quick question. I was wondering if you could talk a little bit more in detail about the scope of the emissions inventory you're taking. So you said you're working with consumers and the city of Lansing. If I recall correctly, the inventory is for city operations, not necessarily like what would constitute Kalamazoo. Is that correct?
No, actually, it's the reverse. We're doing the one that I'm working on right now is the community-wide, not the city operations. Community-wide gives us an opportunity to set a goal for community. I know there's talk of doing a city operations one as well, but I will leave that up to if and when that happens to other people. The one I'm doing right now is for the entire community within the city boundaries. And so we're looking at, air and rail transportation. We're looking at, essentially anything that lies within the city that is producing greenhouse gases. We're trying to take a look at that within the city boundaries. The other one that you're talking about, the city itself and the emissions the city produces, is always a good idea because that's something the city has direct control over. And I know there's discussion about that, but I'm doing the community-wide one at this point.
Excellent. Thanks for the clarification. Final question from me on it. Maybe this is detail that'll come later, but I was curious, when you say the boundaries of the city, how does that work with like supply chain issues? And like power generated outside of the city and that kind of stuff.
And that's a really good. It's not just power generated outside, but when we take a look at our municipal waste, solid waste, when that stuff is buried, that generates methane, which is so much exponentially more powerful than CO2. And so we try to take a look at the composition and where that is going and the tonnage that we're sending outside of Kalamazoo. That counts towards our emissions as well. There's like scope 1, scope 2, and scope 3. What we're going to do is we're going to account as carefully as we can for what we have, the information we have available to us. Then ICLEI, which is an organization that works with cities, municipalities across the country, also has some ways for us to do rougher calculations. And so we're going to get as fine a scope on it as we can. And when we don't have that information available, then we'll use like a more of a zoomed out lens to estimate. And what we're going to do is we're going to put very clear, careful notes into this inventory as we go. And as we have the ability to get a finer tooth comb to find those emissions at a later date, then we'll add those and recalculate those. And so I think this first experience and this first go around, we're going to find out, what do we have easily accessible to us? What don't we have easily accessible to us? What do we need to ask for in the future? And how can we get even a better, clearer scope on things? And so it's imperfect, and it will be, but it'll be a very good starting point, and it will help us to seek out information that we don't have and we'd like more clarity on in the future.
Excellent. Sorry, one last thing. Rough timeline on it. So you said your program's over in December. Does that line up with your program, or Yeah, and then that's it for me.
Well, I'm hoping I'm going through a cohort right now. The city of Kalamazoo, through its membership, we have a cohort, and so I'm hoping to get it wrapped up in time so that we can really use it for planning purposes in this cohort as well. That's depending a lot on the responsiveness. I've got to follow up, and everybody's got lots of balls to juggle in there. But the more response and the quicker I get that from the organizations that I'm asking information from, I'm optimistic that it will absolutely be done before the end of this calendar year, it'll just, how fine and detailed it will depend on the response rate from the people we've requested information from. But it will absolutely be done before the end of the calendar year, and my hope is that before the end of October.
Excellent. Thanks so much for your hard work.
Chad, if you're using 2019 data for baselines, then how frequently are you expecting to compare that? Like, would you go to 2020 and 2021 to compare it, or are you going to kind of jump ahead to 22 or 23, sort of with maybe an assumption that it would be more typical power usage and typical behavior? How are you going to compare?
Well, and I think that I'm probably not in the best position to speak to that specifically for the city of Kalamazoo. I do know among the cohort, the municipalities that are represented across this nation that I'm in right now, generally municipalities come back and review it every 2 or 3 years to make it a manageable situation. Certainly you want to set goals and you want to have measurable goals and come back and make sure that you're on track. I don't think, but I don't want to speak for the city itself, that it will be an actual yearly process, but it will be on a regular process that is manageable for staff, hopefully. And so I would expect that to be done on a regular basis to make sure that we're on track goal-wise, but I couldn't tell you exactly how often.
Okay, thanks. Any other questions for Chad? All right. Well, thanks for coming to our meeting this afternoon, Chad. We appreciate your effort, and we're all very, very eagerly awaiting first draft of a sustainability and climate action plan. I think I was kind of expecting that we would see it before today's meeting. Hopefully we will see it before our October meeting. And if nobody else has any other comments or questions about that plan, we can move on to the next piece of unfinished business, which is the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services upcoming air quality data review. I'm going to stop sharing my screen for a minute so that I can read everybody an email that I received from the Department of Health and Human Services from Bill Farrell, who is heading heading up the group that's working on that. So Mr. Farrell says, we have completed our review of the available sampling data. I think most of that data has come from the Kalamazoo Water Reclamation Plant. Of the available sampling data for hydrogen sulfide and other chemicals near the facilities and in the Kalamazoo community, and are currently in the process of writing our health assessment. Our goal in preparing this assessment is to determine if the concentrations of these chemicals in the air present a potential health risk. We will share our findings with the community when our evaluation is complete. In addition to our health assessment, we are preparing a fact sheet on hydrogen sulfide to be released in the coming weeks. The fact sheet will include information on health effects from hydrogen sulfide and how someone may be exposed to hydrogen sulfide, among other information. So that was the response that I got from Mr. Farrell at Michigan Department of Health and Human Services. That health impact study, which may simply lead to further, more detailed, possibly epidemiological study. That is still in process. So we got any questions or comments about yet another document which is still theoretical and which we have not seen?
I just have a quick note. So I believe on Monday at the next city commission meeting, maybe Commissioner Hess could offer any insight on this. On a related note, not perfectly evenly perfect circle Venn diagram related, but the graphic packaging international continued tax abatement discussion will be had next Monday at 6:30. We don't have to make it an ECC thing, but just personally, I'm going to be calling in to oppose it. I don't believe it makes fiscal, economic, or environmental sense to continue giving money to this organization, mostly based on their record outside of the city for not following modest EPA regulations, which most of us know are pretty substandard anyway. And also the main justification that I've heard was to bring jobs to the community, which, normally great, but I don't think that really carries much weight right now when we're in a massive labor shortage. So just putting that on the record. Feel free to join me if you're interested. And thank you.
Any other comments? And I'll talk more. I'll talk more about some of that stuff when we get to the Odor Task Force piece later in the meeting. All right, new business. Nicole was hoping to talk about, I think we would title it sustainable food production. Is that correct, Nicole?
Yeah, it's really just something that I wanted to bring to the table to see if you all were interested or if the community is interested in kind of adding that as a subcommittee. I think this kind of came to me because I work sort of at the intersection of food production and food security in the community, and how that affects kind of people and the natural environment in the community. And so I'm just wondering if there's any enthusiasm for kind of getting in touch with and connecting to people in the community who are doing sustainable food production. I know that KVCC has a partnership with Bronson, and they've done a lot of really cool things, but really kind of in a way that emphasizes the impact it has on the environment in Kalamazoo rather than the people. Because I think there's a lot of emphasis in other programs and other committees on how that food production or that kind of food production impacts people, which is awesome. But I think there's not as much of a look, as at least to my knowledge, as to how that's impacting maybe like how green the city is, or how much waste or lack of waste there is based on that, or how much composting is being done instead of waste production and things like that. So I kind of just wanted to bring that, and I can kind of hash out a little bit more in more detail what that might look like if there's interest in the group and the community.
Any comments?
I mean, I'd like to hear more if you said if there's interest. So yeah.
I'm not sure what you said, something about forming a committee, or I'm not sure what you're hoping for in this effort.
I think developing, just as we have other subcommittees that are kind of connected to other organizations or environment related issues in the community, I think that having a subcommittee that just kind of keeps a pulse on what's happening with sustainability in our food production, because Kalamazoo is unique in that it maybe not within the city, but certainly directly around the city, there's so much rural land and food production land, and even within the city, the the sort of urban food production is growing a lot. So I think that having a subcommittee that just kind of keeps a pulse on that, and maybe hears from people in the community who are doing work with that, or things that we can either advocate for or support or just bring to the community's attention. I know there are a lot of new community farms and community gardens popping up that people aren't aware of. And those are, I think, good things to support on a lot of levels, but one being environmentally for our community.
So food production means growing plant type foods. Is that what you're referring to? And what kind of farms or gardens or is it more than that? I'm not real clear on what we're talking about. I've never heard the
sorry.
Food production. So
yeah, I think that what I was thinking is
Lori, I don't think that Nicole's dog likes your question.
oh, it was Nicole.
Yeah, it was me
making a objection.
I think that, yeah, mostly I was thinking growing. There are just a lot of new movements and they're getting some attention in local and sustainable growth. But I also think maybe that could, and I'm open to, it's kind of why I wanted to bring it in a sort of unfinished form, is to see if anyone else had input on that. But I know also that like the co-op, the People's Food Co-op, does a lot of sourcing. That I think it could be a lot of things, I guess, but I think my emphasis in my mind was on growing and how that's happening in the summer months, but also in the winter months, how people are greenhousing and things like that.
I'd just say I'd second Sharon's point that I'd love to learn more. Like personally, I'm maxed out on the like things that I can commit to going to, but I think we could at least make it an agenda item if you have stuff to share with the committee and like maybe action items come up here and there. I'd love to hear more about that because yeah, I love the idea.
Awesome.
Yeah, I'd love to hear more about it too. I'm kind of curious to know. I'm probably pretty ignorant on the subject. Curious to know, the benefits and drawbacks to, small scale farming, food production within an urban area versus the larger scale, where you can reduce costs and, when you can do a whole bunch of stuff in one spot, it's, a more efficient way to do it. But what are the relative benefits to, growing stuff in your own backyard or having little community gardens? And are they really, are those community gardens really happening? Because a lot of times I feel like I hear somebody, hey, we're doing a community garden, and it's like one lady, that's managing everything. And after 2 years, it's just like weeds. But is there some greater benefit to, reduced packaging for food or, transportation costs, all that kind of stuff? I'd love for, I can't remember my friend's name from the food co-op that runs the food co-op now. I'd love for him to, maybe you could reach out to him if he could come to talk to us about that kind of stuff. But I think I'm with Ian too. I don't know if we could, there's not enough room on my paper here for another subcommittee, I don't think. But I can leave this on here as kind of unfinished business. And maybe if you've got kind of like a few like bullet pointed, specific things that we can kind of mull over and discuss, if there's something we can do to, improve our environment here, I'm all for it.
If I had time to jump on a subcommittee, that would be the one I would jump on. But I have no business even trying to commit to anything right now. I think it's really worth it to see if such a subcommittee could be formed and maybe gain some traction. But I'm spent for time.
Yeah, and Nicole, just to add on to what Aaron said, if you don't already know him, at the People's Food Co-op, Chris Dilly, you can find him on Facebook. He's really responsive too, and he might be a good person to talk to in that regard.
Is he the one who does the compost? Or is this a different Chris? Okay, sorry. Yeah, I'll reach out to the food co-op seems like a good place. And I do work with some people who are active in that way in the community, who run community gardens and things like that. So I'm definitely happy to have it as just some unfinished business for now, and then we can kind of see if there's enough. But even if we don't form a subcommittee, I think just being able to learn a little bit about it could be valuable either way.
Yeah, me too. I would love to hear about the waste end of it. Like, I'd love for Chris to come in and, talk about that, what that looks like. I know it's a lot more like you bring your own bag, and it's like, kind of bulk stuff that you can get at the food co-op. The less junk we're tossing out every time we go to the store, the better. So I'd love to hear about that.
Maybe we should bring it up again when there's when the committee when we got a full membership here, because I think we're missing plenty of people who might be into jumping on a subcommittee.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Nicole.
Thank you.
All right. Taking a look at subcommittee reports, NFP Review Board. I don't think there's been much action with the NFP Review Board, but Bobby is not here to report, so we'll have to hear from him next month, unless anybody else has heard anything recently. I think that's a no. Air and water
passed. I don't know if we talked about that last month or if that was new news, but
yeah, we did mention that last month. Yeah. And Sharon, while you're talking, was there an announcement that you wanted to make that I kind of cut you off?
I was trying to find it and we kind of moved on quick, but I sent an email with a link if you want to pass that along. It is let me just pull that up again. Things that are going on, I think, via the Nature Center. That is an engagement series with the community. It says Community Emergence Series, I guess, at the Nature Center website. And there's a whole bunch of different events. Yesterday was the book club one. And then there's more that are still coming. So that are all intersections of environment and different things. So one coming up is like environmental justice related. Yeah, there's just different things that I thought people might be interested in.
Okay, cool. I will share that with the committee when we're done with our meeting here. Hopefully Bobby and I will get together the next month or so and hopefully try to review, get an update on what's going on with the cleanup at the Portage Road, between Portage Road and Burdick there. Why is the name of the property is escaping me right now? Right by where they've got the health department or the health center now.
On Alcott Street.
Yeah, on Alcott. Why am I apologize. I'm drawing a blank on the name.
Superfund?
Yeah, well, yes, part of the EPA's cleanup effort. Hopefully we'll be able to get an update on that. Gail is not here to talk about wildlife and natural resource protection or the tree committee. She said that the tree committee did not meet last month, so there wasn't much to report. Hopefully the tree committee will be moving forward on kind of reviewing a possible new tree ordinance that looks at the urban tree canopy and what we can do to improve that, or help it along and increase it if possible. I think the key question there is sort of where do we plant those trees, within an urban area, because it's kind of hard. It can be hard to find healthy plots of land where you can actually plant trees. Waste management and litter. On my end, I am still working on putting together kind of a spreadsheet of a list of organizations that have done litter pickups in the past. And so, like I said, I'm hoping to have that kind of put together with a map with a couple of city staff when the city launches its new website. But I kind of have to get to it on there. Sharon, do you have anything?
No, not for this one.
Okay. Planning Commission, Ian.
Nothing to report. As far as I know, they didn't have a meeting since our last.
Okay. Gales Tree Committee. Sharon, anything from the Asylum Lake group?
Most of the last meeting was kind of budgeting, so I don't think anything super exciting to mention.
Okay. While I'm thinking of it, Iris Potter, who called in, mentioned that she sent me a couple of documents. I will send those along to the committee along with Sharon's link when I'm done here so that I don't let it slide. Parks and Rec Advisory Board, Rob is not here to share. Wellhead Protection Program. Melissa, are you still on?
Yep, I'm here.
Melissa, can you invite Jean Talanda to an upcoming meeting?
Yeah, I'll get with her and see her availability and let you know.
Okay, awesome, thanks. You're kind of breaking up there, Melissa, but I think that was a yes.
Yes.
Yeah, just let me know when she's available. That would be awesome.
I can do that.
Kalamazoo River Watershed Council. Nicole, do you have any updates there?
They added me to their group, their kind of it's a Google Drive. But I didn't get any kind of like response yet from them. And they're in the Google Drive. Their last meeting, I think, was July, and that was the last invitation that was in there. So I have like made contact, kind of. I'm at least part of that group now, so I'll be able to see, but otherwise nothing.
Okay. I think I texted whatever the phone number is on the website. So I'm not exactly sure who I was texting. But I would love for an expert from that group or Western or, somebody in our region that can come and speak to us about, the multiple issues that we have with the river. I don't think that we've had anybody come and speak to our group in detail about the river. We did have the one fellow from the Kalamazoo River Alliance, but that was a little bit more from kind of a recreational standpoint. I'm hoping we can find somebody that is, kind of more of a scientific expert on what's going on with the river. And if there's anything that we could do as a committee, whether it's sending a recommendation to the, city staff or city commission, and just to generally give us more knowledge. I personally feel not, like I don't have as much information. I don't have as much knowledge as I should for being on this committee about Kalamazoo River, and it's such a big part of our, of our environment here. So if you can communicate with them and see if you can find them. If anybody else has an idea about who could come and maybe present to us, I would love to hear it.
Ian, when you were working with I know you said that you haven't been in a while, but did you have a direct contact with anybody there? My issue right now is just actually talking with someone. Or Aaron, if you got a hold of someone by texting that number.
The short answer is no. I never had any contact. Sorry.
No, that's okay. I'll figure it out.
Yeah, it was a no for me too. So hopefully you can, reach out to some more people and try to figure out who it is, who's the mover and shaker. I know that I think I saw the guy at the Nature Center this summer for the Kalamazoo or the Climate Coalition kind of get together. He had a whole display of stuff, but I probably should have got his number while I was there. Last committee here, Odor Task Force. So I did call in to the city commission meeting last week on the 5th, last week, about the issue with the contingent tax breaks. Just to kind of share that or kind of update the city commission that a lot of the contingencies that that the city was asking for are kind of already in place, and some of them are being enforced by. There's an agreement with Eagle. So graphic packaging has installed 16 odor monitors on their property. They are sharing that data out at the last odor task force meeting. I did see they had a list of all those data points of hydrogen sulfide emissions. They're also sharing that with Eagle. I'm not sure if, I think one of the pieces in the contingency was quarterly reporting from Graphic. I'm not sure if that is going to continue or if they're going to let that go by the wayside because it's not, it's not going to be part of any tax abatement agreement. But they are still reporting all of that data at odor task force meetings, every few months, and they're sharing that information with Eagle. So Monica Brothers, our local air quality agent from Eagle, she is planning to have a public meeting. It'll be a Zoom meeting, hopefully sometime in October, to share odor monitoring data from Eagle's monitors. They've got like 3 or 4 monitors, I think, and several months worth of data, and to also share kind of a summary of Eagle's odor monitoring data, which goes back a little farther than Eagle's data. So she hasn't scheduled that yet, but when she does, she'll let me know, and I'll share that out with the committee. I know that she was going to try to get a hold of, kind of some of this community stakeholders on the north side, the east side. I think she was going to try to get a hold of the Deacons Conference and some other community groups, maybe the East Side Neighborhood Association, North Side Neighborhood Association, so that they could hear firsthand what's going on with odor monitoring specifically. And then, of course, we're waiting on that air quality data review in terms of health effects, any possible health effects of those emissions. I think those were the 2 main things. I called into the city commission. Again, I don't, tax abatement issue, what we had recommended as a committee for as far as contingencies to try to leverage some action by graphic packaging. Most of that stuff is essentially already in place. And, the purview of the ECC really is environmental issues, not tax issues. I think one thing we haven't mentioned again is that, graphic packaging is a recycling plant, right? So, I mean, there's, it's not like they're a gun manufacturer and there's like no socially redeeming quality to, to what they're doing on their property. Obviously there are emissions, there are, whatever, I'm sure a raft of environmental issues that, because I've been to the, the licensing hearings and stuff for the EPA for their air emissions. I've been to a couple of those meetings, and they're pretty detailed, detailed meetings with a lot of kind of dense scientific information. But how do you address, recycling all this paperboard and paper or whatever it is that they're recycling when there's so much of it? The only way to address it is on an industrial scale, right? I don't know that necessarily having that industrial plant planted in the middle of a residential neighborhood is the greatest solution either, but that's kind of where it was. So anyways, I called in. It wasn't like a ECC recommendation or anything. It was just to give them, because I'm going to these odor task force meetings. I'm in contact with Eagle, and I just kind of wanted to give them the facts of what's going on with our efforts here in the city to mitigate those odors, and now chase down the question of are these emissions that are clearly detectable in the atmosphere on the north side and on the east side, are they making us sick? So hopefully we'll get that report soon. And so we've got like 3 things that we're hoping to see in the next few months. They're probably all going to be released on the same day. So, we get a report from the ad hoc committee on deer. We'll get a draft sustainability and climate action report. Graphic Packaging does have another environmental engineering report that they're supposed to release. And the expected report from Michigan Department of Health and Human Services. So hopefully it's not all released on one day, but that's going to be a lot of stuff for hopefully our committee and everybody on our committee to really kind of dig their teeth into and go through with a fine-tooth comb, so that when we come to those meetings, we're ready with our questions, and ready to do some battle here over the next few months. So I think that brings us to the end. Any comments for the good of the order?
My only one would just be on the graphic packaging issue. They can still build their facility and recycle cardboard without the city cutting them a $1.5 million check every year. So, but anyway, like you said, we're not here to talk taxes.
All right, thanks, Ian. And Gail, you made it.
Yeah, for the last 5 minutes, I guess. Sorry. Sorry, hopefully you got my messages earlier that I wasn't going to be able to join, or if I could, it would be very late. And the tree committee has not met, so I have nothing to report from that perspective.
Okay. Yeah, I did get your messages.
Good to see everybody's little Hollywood Square. So
yeah.
Sorry I missed it.
All right. If there's no other comments and hearing none, meeting is adjourned. Hopefully we will have some more stuff to dig into next month. We'll see y'all later.
Bye, folks.